So after 4 phases and nearly 15 years, the MCU can get a little complicated lore-wise. And with Phase 5 on the horizon, I'm kinda starting to panic a little bit. So let's dig into the giant vat of information that exists and try to figure out everything that we need to remember from Phase 4. Because honestly, there's a lot. So let's kick off our discussion with the movie that comes chronologically first, Black Widow. That movie sets us up for the Thunderbolts big time. It's when we're introduced to Yelena Belova, the adoptive sister of Natasha Romanoff, and a totally dope assassin gone good. She also did some stuff in the Hawkeye series, but we're going to touch upon that a little bit later. We were also introduced to Red Guardian in Black Widow, adoptive father to Yelena and Natasha, and the first Soviet-Russian super soldier. Dad goals, I guess. He's definitely going to be making an appearance in the Thunderbolts, so take note.
The Red Guardian's time has come!
Now on to WandaVision. WandaVision gave us an adult Monica Rambeau and her hero origin story, which is good because before we only really remembered her as that kid from Captain Marvel. WandaVision also gave us Agatha, who is going to be the lead in the Disney Plus series Agatha, Coven of Chaos. This series is going to be the sequel to WandaVision, so you gotta remember what happened at the end. Wanda leaving Agatha trapped in Westview.
Okie dokie, artichoke.
Anyway, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We left off with the ring sending out a signal to someone in the multiverse, and rumor is that it's going to be Kang the Conqueror, interdimensional time-traveling bad dude extraordinaire. We'll get more into him when we talk about Loki Season 1 a little bit later on. Anyways, if that signal is being sent to him, it'll more than likely come up in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Okay, Falcon and Winter Soldier time. Most important thing. Captain America New World Order is going to pick up right where this show left off. Sam Wilson has become Captain America, they put the kibosh on the Flag Smashers, Zemo was put away in the raft, and boom. Falcon and the Winter Soldier also introduced us to a bunch of people who are more than likely going to be somewhat important in Phase 5. We met John Walker, US agent, who was supposed to be Captain America until he kinda did some bad stuff. We met Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, the director of the CIA, though we didn't find that part out until much later. We also met Joaquin Torres, who actually becomes Falcon in the comics sometime after Sam Wilson. The show set that up just a little bit when Sam Wilson actually left his damaged wings with Torres.
Wait, yo, you forgot the wings.
Keep them.
Also, there's Isaiah Bradley and his grandson, who in the comics became Patriot, and they might be around to do stuff, but we're not really sure at this point. Anybody remember the Eternals? For one, there's a giant celestial half sticking out of the ocean. Someone's gotta mention that somewhere, right? There's even some slight rumors floating around that one or more of the Eternals might show up or get mentioned in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I mean, the main baddie of that film is gonna be the High Evolutionary, a guy who's basically obsessed with creating genetically perfect beings, which is essentially what the Eternals are. Oh, the end credit scene is also worth mentioning. That's where Dane Whitman is confronted by a mysterious voice before he can wield the ebony blade. That voice belongs to, drumroll please, Blade. It's Blade. You know, the vampire hunter guy. He's gonna get a movie at the end of Phase 5, so him being there might be slightly important. No Way Home heavily touches upon the multiverse and all the shenanigans surrounding it.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
That's bound to come up since, I mean, it is the Multiverse Saga, so probably going to be a thing. Also, the way it left off with Peter Parker being forgotten by literally everybody, come on, we need a little bit more there.
I need it!
This was also the proper MCU introduction of Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. He's getting his own series, Daredevil Born Again, in Phase 5, so take note. There's even more multiverse shenanigans in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Obviously. All of that is bound to come up 1,000 times over. Wanda's demise in this film might actually be how Agatha is able to escape her imprisonment in Westview, directly leading into Coven of Chaos. It's just a guess, but honestly, that would make sense. There's also a rumor going around that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is going to tease at the Fantastic Four. A member of the Fantastic Four from an alternate Earth showed up in the movie, so that's at least a pretty big tease. In the Hawkeye series, we got a lot more story on Yelena Belova, which is direct setup for the Thunderbolts.
Stop making me like you.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
We also met Echo, who brought the Kingpin into the MCU along with her. She's getting her own show in Phase 5, and Kingpin is bound to play a part in that. Also, Kingpin may show up in the new Daredevil show that we're all so stoked for. Also, I've got to imagine that Kate Bishop is going to be in Phase 5 somewhere. Maybe she'll pop up in Ironheart and help further set up the Young Avengers. You know, that movie that we all know is coming despite the fact that they haven't said anything about it. It's kind of obvious. In She-Hulk, there's potentially more setup for the Thunderbolts with Abomination being around. When you think about it, Secretary Ross is going to be in Thunderbolts, so it wouldn't be that shocking to see him and Abomination on screen together. Nothing is confirmed, obviously, but I'd bet on it.
It's the comic price I pay for my actions.
Jennifer Walters could also be at least mentioned in Daredevil's show, since at the end of She-Hulk, the two of them kinda seem to be an item.
I smash fourth walls and bad endings, and sometimes Matt Murdock.
The obvious connection in Ms. Marvel is that Kamala Khan is going to play a lead part in the Marvels. There's also a rumor that her bangle is somehow connected to the quantum realm, since it has some similarities to the Ten Rings and some of the tech that He Who Remains used in Loki. And if that is the case, then there's potentially a connection to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, maybe. Also, Kamala's got latent mutant genes. That could be some X-Men stuff. I mean, we're not gonna get any X-Men movies in Phase 5 from what we've seen. There's just too much going on already, but maybe Phase 6? Thor Love and Thunder's a little dicey to connect to Phase 5. The best I've got is that it might connect to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, since Thor does have a relationship with the team, but that's still kind of a long shot. The movie could also potentially connect to the events of Loki Season 2, but since they've kind of been distancing Loki from Thor in order to allow him to stand on his own as a character, I kind of doubt it. Wakanda Forever's connections are obvious. Sure, he's a Black Panther right now, and I'm fairly certain they're not looking to change that anytime soon, but she did create more of the heart-shaped herb, so the possibility of more Black Panthers in the future is definitely there. Wakanda Forever also gave us Riri Williams, Ironheart. She's getting her own show in Phase 5 of the MCU, as I've mentioned a couple of times already. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is a direct sequel to the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special that aired on Disney Plus in 2022. In the special, we found out that the Guardians had actually purchased Nowhere and were looking to turn it into a sort of safe haven for people. That is definitely going to play into the plot of Volume 3. We also found out that Mantis is in fact Peter Quill's sister. That's gonna come up. We also got buff boy Chad-Groot, certain parts of the internet's current obsession. Don't go to those parts, it's scary. There's also a huge thing that happens out of time, so we'll break that down while we're at it. And that's Loki Season 1. Obviously, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that that last episode alone might be the most important piece of Phase 4. At least in regards to, like, the MCU moving forward. We're getting Season 2 in Phase 5, and the death of He Who Remains presumably directly sets up Quantumania and the entire conflict in the Multiverse Saga in Phase 5 and 6. You know, all that Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars stuff? That probably spawned from this very moment. So, you know, kind of a big deal. You should probably watch Loki. What are you speculating is gonna happen in Phase 5 of the MCU? Personally, I'm thinking that we're gonna see more and more mutants. Maybe even having a full-on X-Men tease by the end of either New World Order or Thunderbolts. Maybe that'll be the end credit scene for Thunderbolts just to lead us into Phase 6.